The more I watch of the Ossan Newbie Adventurer, the more I realize it really does feel like a 90s anime, or something in that area. Like, it's very old school feeling, but it's done so in such a fresh way. Like, these are the types of shows when I watch it, and a big part of it is, of course, due to the visual presentation of the show. Like, no one's gonna write home saying this is the best animated show of the season, and you can absolutely nitpick a lot of stuff, but I mean, you also have to give a lot of credit. I mean, was there a 3D dragon in here? No. I mean, sure, maybe there's a little more slideshowy animation, but hell, anime is the least animated medium out there. You know, a lot of the styles of how things move around on screen is a stylistic part of the anime medium. So, it just kind of adds to that more old school feel, because as anime has gotten better animated and stuff over the years, some of those old school techniques are less and less seen. But it's like, even if 70% of my feelings for this feeling like a 90s anime come from the visual side, there is something about the storytelling, the structuring, and there is this old school feel that feels so modern at the same time. And I literally am still blown away week after week by how much I'm enjoying this show, because by all rights, this should have been a gimmick show where he just continuously doesn't know he's powerful, and then it just runs with that gag as powerful people surround him and, you know, we keep on trucking. But the idea that they start this episode off, because we ended last week without his number being called. We all knew he passed, but they didn't announce it. They start this episode and then immediately go to flashback. And the entire episode is just going from his childhood, where he was waiting for his skill to unlock, all the way up to the point that he joined Renette's party, and then obviously things started happening with where we got the season started. And then his number gets announced. Everything about this show almost feels like this is a show that, because when I started watching anime, I obviously watched a lot of the stuff around the time, because when I really got into anime, it was around the 2012 era, stuff like that, so of course I watched a lot of the big stuff from in that area. But of course, there was a lot of stuff from the 90s, early 2000s, stuff like that people are like, oh, you also have to watch that. Everyone, when they first get into anime, probably is watching Cowboy Bebop, stuff like that. And it really does give me that feel that this is almost like seeing, you know, an anime company take something from the 90s, doing this great Blu-ray upgrade, like almost similar to like what they've done with a lot of great shows, like even Cowboy Bebop, where it's like the animation's still the same because it was animated back in the day, but visually it's a lot sharper now that they gave, you know, the colors a little bit of a touch-up. That's how it feels watching this show. And it's weird because if you were to take any still shot from this show and show it to me if I wasn't watching it, probably look at that and say, yeah, it's not really my cup of tea visually. But there is something oddly nostalgic about watching this show and then seeing how they structure things. And like, I think Rick is a big part of this. Rick is the most old school feeling protagonist you can ask for, and seeing him get that W by the end was such a rewarding experience. Now, of course, I do have full live reactions over on Patreon if you want to see my full and good thought to any of these episodes. It's going to be over there exclusively. I think what really helps is that a lot of the fundamentals about this episode, or any of these episodes, it almost feels like it follows a path that you can predict, but there's always something about it that you're like, even if it's kind of going the where I thought, I don't want to call it generic. So, characters getting a power-up, or having the ability to save the day after years, or whatever it is, of not being able to do so because, you know, power of friendship, you know, my friends are in danger, whatever. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's god-awful, you know? Here's the thing about this. I feel like it really works in this case, because we started with him at, what, age 12? I don't know, like, he was a kid, right? He was pretty damn young. And every day, friends are like, hey, did your skill unlock? Not yet, any day now. Then it's weeks, and then it's a year later. And then we see him at his job as the receptionist. At no point during the run of childhood to the big dragon fight was there a moment where he really had the fear and the anxiety and the determination. Hell, before he knew what our girl was capable of, he was willing to stand in the way. But the idea of like that years of being pushed down, I really feel like only he could have done what he did there. I think if any other person, you know, had their skill not unlocked, I think they would have died having it not ever unlocked. I think it's just how it would be. And I think the structuring of this episode and allowing a full-ass backstory at episode 4, we already know the general idea. You know, he failed, he was a receptionist, eventually he got trained by these crazy goofballs. Now he's strong. We understand that. Like, technically we don't need it. But it adds so much to the substance of the show to make it feel like it's more than just a okay show of the season, but one that's actually turning out to be fairly freaking great. It's one that, if it never got a season 2, I'm not necessarily gonna be like always thinking about it. But if I ever saw season 2, even 4 or 5 years down the line on a live chart, you bet your ass I'd be right there watching. Like, this show has already sold me on wanting to see the journey continue. But back to the main point. The idea of what happened with that unlock of his skill, it technically isn't anything I haven't seen before, and it technically follows the typical rules. But there's something about the structuring of the backstory, and having 3 episodes of seeing him so busted, and then seeing that backstory to really reinforce just his life sucked. Not in the way that he was depressed, ready to jump off a bridge or anything, but he went through the cycle that so many people are forced to do. You wake up, you do your job, you got some friends, you have some family, but he never was truly happy. His true dream and what he wanted to do was constantly buried beneath him because he wasn't good enough. And the idea of when everyone else is down for the count and he gets up and just that moment unlocking it, the thing about it, and I think the reason I'm okay with it, if there's good setup for these moments, I'm usually okay to tolerate it, because at the end of the day, there are literally case studies about people, because there's real life examples of mothers and fathers being able to do things beyond their limits when their kids are in danger, things that almost feel superhuman. Like, the human body can naturally push itself to a point. I mean, there's a reason why people who are tweaked out of their mind on drugs can get brutally hurt and run that shit off. It's almost a similar thing, just an adrenaline high rather than a substance high. So then if you add in a world that has like more magical things that can be enhanced, I kind of believe it. I believe it can happen. And to see him get victorious there was really, really impressive. And you knew overall it was all going to work out, but it's to see that journey. It's such an old school style feeling episode. And honestly, I think this will be the episode to beat for this season of the Ossan Newbie Adventurer. I don't think we're going to have any more backstory episodes. And I definitely don't think any episode's going to really feel like this episode, because this really was a very specific style episode that really, I don't think can be replicated, unless they really wanted to dive into the training montages more. But either way, this was such a good episode that really seals the deal. I mean, I've been here for this show the past couple episodes 100%, but like, this is the one that really seals the deal. It's not the best animated show. There is a lot of like, okay, that's a very basic move, but here's the thing. The fact that this shit was all like classically, like the style of the dragon, the texturing of the dragon, like the 2D-ness, it's just, I have to appreciate this show for just feeling so old school and really not feeling like it's taking shortcuts. Let me know what you thought of this week's episode down below, because I definitely thought this elevated the show to another level, but let me know your feelings down below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're around, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while over there, I'll give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Roscoe, Zeekster, Michael Latham, Sleeping Knight, Riptide, Valorix, and Adam Dundorf. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and you all have a good one.